When it comes to the visuals of the world, Genshin is absolutely stunning. Each region has its own theme and you can differ them from each other pretty easily. You can typically tell what are the cultural references that inspire each region based on the looks. The landscape and music have to be one of my favorite things about this game. So far, we've had 4 regions, with at least 3 more on the way. So in honor of Fontaine coming out in about 2 months or so, here are my thoughts on the current ones and what I think Fontaine would be like, story and exploration-wise. Mondstadt. It is the first region we stumble upon after receiving the blessing from the Statue of Seven. It introduced us to the vast world of Genshin. So how does it hold up compared to more recent regions? Story-wise, also when I say story-wise, I mean just the Archon quest. Let's continue. Story-wise, I believe Mondstadt did a great job with introducing us to the game. It is basically a tutorial that wasn't too limiting. The cast was fun, and even though situations were dire, it was still pretty lighthearted in the grand scheme of things. It was the calm before the storm, the comfort in the agony, and honestly, was really well done. Not too heavy, but not too boring either. A solid 8.5 out of 10. It really hooked me into continuing the game and learning more about future regions. Exploration-wise, Mondstadt is the definition of comfort. It has the least amount of oculi, I don't know the plural of those things, but it has the least amount of them, which makes sense since it is the first place you get to. The landscape and scenery just calms you down and puts you into a state of peace and tranquility. If the game ever gets too much, just go to Mondstadt and listen to the music. The scenery and the sounds are just so calming. And 9 out of 10. It is the most soothing and easiest place to explore out of all the regions we've gotten so far, and I think that was a good choice on the developer's part, as to not overwhelm you too much when you're just starting out. Dragonspine, however, is a whole different beast, and I wonder how Dormanport and the Dandelion Sea is going to look if they ever decide to release those sub-regions of Mondstadt. Liyue. Story-wise, Liyue was more heavy than Mondstadt, though the whole gathering things for Zhongli's funeral part was a bit meh. The ending really came through and made it worth it for me. The characters each had a role they played, and once the role was fulfilled, they left, but came together one last time to fight the main boss. I like the concept of the story. Liyue learning to defend itself without the help of its Archon is like a parent watching their child leave the nest. I understand why Zhongli did what he did. I know some people have some misgivings about what he did, but honestly, it was the right thing to do. He would have stepped in if things get too dire anyways. It was a good story overall. A good 7.5 out of 10. I liked it, but it could have been better in some areas. Exploration-wise, Liyue's scenery is by all means gorgeous, like that's a given when it comes to this game. They do not disappoint with the visuals and the music. The actual exploration aspects for Liyue is, for lack of a better word, tiring. Like the amount of climbing you have to do is slightly annoying. God-forsaken Geobishop hatchlings constantly stun-looking you isn't in any way fun. So I'll give it a 7 out of 10. I love it, but the process is kind of annoying. The chasm, however, was a nice change of scenery. Not too hard to explore, and it was a good addition to Liyue. Also, like Mondstadt, Liyue has some areas that have only been mentioned a few times in-game, but they have the potential of being released in the future. Xiaoying Village and Chenyu Vale were mentioned by Zhongli, telling us he recommends the tea there, and other NPCs have also referenced the place. It is also close to Fontaine, so maybe we will get them during the 4.0 update. Inazuma. Story-wise, Inazuma has to be my least favorite Archon quest so far. The concept of the plot was great, like I understood what they were trying to do. God, the execution wasn't the best. It felt rushed and the pacing was sort of off. The characters were kind of all over the place and we just kept going from one place to the other. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't absolutely horrible, but it could have been better. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. The characters were really fun though. If only we'd spent more time with them and learned more about them in the quest. Exploration-wise, I like the story. The exploration part of Inazuma is one of my favorites in the game. Currently mid 100%ing all of the Inazuma Islands. It has been an 8 out of 10 experience so far. It is gorgeous, but deadly. If you're not careful, you will die from all the random lightning strikes that are just out to get you for some reason. Also, it being separated into different islands makes the exploration process a bit easier. You get a change of scenery and it is easier to explore in smaller sections than if, let's say, Inazuma was one big giant island. And Kanomiya, however, not as enjoyable. It is good, it looks great, and I like the lore behind it, but it's kind of It is also separated into small sections, but are not as easier to get to, unless you've unlocked all the teleportation waypoints, which would make it easier. But you know what, at the end of the day, Inazuma is a good out of 10, exploration-wise. Sumeru. Story-wise, Sumeru has the best Archon quest so far. It was well-paced, each character had a role to play, and were very involved from beginning to end. Seeing the plan all come together was really enjoyable, and I hope Hoyoverse continues with this trend of good writing, big cast, heist-like plot lines. This showed that they learned a lot from Inazuma's writing, and it was well executed into Sumeru's. Though Sumeru's Archon Quest has its faults, I don't think it is that bad that it affects the story too much. A solid 9 out of 10. The part where we were stuck in a loop was kind of freaky, but in the end, I understood why it was done, and because of the pacing, it didn't feel like too much. Exploration-wise, Sumeru has two types of areas, the rainforest and the desert. Now, the rainforest is easier to explore, considering it is also smaller, but the desert is more interesting in my opinion. The ruins and the underground areas are really fun to explore. Yes, they can get confusing at times due to the lack of underground map in-game, but I still find it enjoyable. So the rainforest is an 8 out of 10, and the desert is also an 8 out of 10. They each have their own reasons, though I do enjoy the desert more, so maybe I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. I do wish it was a tad bit smaller though. My predictions for Fontaine. Now, ignoring all the leaks, these are my own thoughts. These are things I want to see happen. Story-wise, I think it's going to be more like dealing with corruption in the justice system, since the Hydra Archon is very justice-themed, courtroom theme and everything. Think Ace Attorney. Oh my god, imagine there was an Ace Attorney reference. That'd be so cool. I wonder if they'll talk about the past Hydra Archon and why the Oceanids decide to leave the current Hydra Archon. What did she do to upset them so much? I'm sure there's probably like an event where they talk about it, but I don't think I was playing when that event came out. The one where you get Endora, or what's her name? I am really excited for Fontaine's Archon Quest, and I'm hoping to get the pacing right and all the characters are well integrated into the story. I would like to believe they've learned a lot from like Inazuma and Sumeru, so I'm expecting good things. An 8 out of 10 perhaps, maybe even a 10 out of 10. Exploration-wise, I hope we get some form of underwater exploration, and based on the little teaser we got at the end of 3.7's livestream, I think we will have. Sumeru brought a new element. Fontaine will hopefully bring a new type of exploration, and maybe they can improve the fishing system. Just putting that out there. I can't wait to see how the places outside of the main city will look like. Depending on how they integrate the underwater exploration, it is either going to be at worst a 5 out of 10, because if they do it poorly, it can be more of a hassle than a gimmick, or a solid 8 out of 10, or 9 out of 10. Also, I wonder if Fontaine is going to be bigger than Sumeru. They will be more Hydroculuses than Dendroculus, since those things tend to increase with each region. So it's reasonable to think it will be bigger, but I hope it's not too much bigger. Just genuinely excited for Fontaine. Subscribe if you'd like to see my first impressions of Fontaine when it finally comes out. Thanks for watching. See you whenever. Bye!